What's good? What's good, family? Queen Common Sense coming back to you with another one from the Chi Town Hold It Down remix to the Cackalack of Sticks. Whew. I hope everybody is doing well and taking good care of themselves in this heat. Oh my gosh. And oh my, life is lifing. However, I have learned a lot, grown a lot, and done a whole lot of survival. Okay, overcoming, putting old demons to bed. That's what I've been working on over here in the Royal TP. And I hope everyone is planted, rooted, and grounded in putting yourself first. It's very important. Protecting your peace, restoring peace, and make sure you're loving on and teaching these babies. I mean, from the little ones all the way up to the young ones, 20-ish, 30-ish. If you 50 and above, these are our babies. Okay? We are responsible for making sure they have a well-rounded, diverse lexicon of knowledge and information. Okay? It is their time to shine now. The youth, our legacies. And instead of trying to make their lives 100% miserable, okay, we need as elders to demystify is what the word I came up with. I invented a word. You need to heal your misery so that you can support and be the soft place to land for our legacies, our children and grandchildren, whether they're related to you or not. Okay. Now, the reason why I say this is because I'm all black first, all day, every day. I need to clean around my own front door before I go talking about any other culture of people that need to uh, get their act together. Okay. Because I'm about evolution. Okay, lessons learned, applying said lessons, and truly unpacking. Like Erica Badu said, pack light, you gonna miss your bus. You can't hurry up because you got too much stuff. It, there's nothing that we can accomplish with holding on to decaying traumas. Nothing but destruction. And we have inherited a lot of that trauma from being forced into servitude and then being gaslit into thinking that or believing that we're no longer under anybody's servitude. Okay. And I put it off talking about Sandra Massey because it really triggers me for a number of reasons. Um, I automatically think of Sandra Bland. I automatically think of Breonna Taylor. Um, I think about a lot of our women who were slain by the hands of racist law enforcement. And another subtopic of being triggered by this, um, I live in a Confederate state right now. And I've been here 10 years, and each year it has grown more disturbingly obvious that some of these creeps, we know they're definitely racist, but they don't even know they're racist. They don't know they have been taught racism. They don't know that's what that's called. Now, a lot of us already know this, but I'm talking about for the people in the back in the nosebleed seats who ain't been paying attention. Okay. Crazy people don't know they're crazy. Mentally ill people most times don't know it until they have someone objectively indicate it. And in the Black community, we have used and weaponized mental illness, therapy, um, life coaching, and things of that nature, weaponized it and used it as a tool to shame each other. Now we have evolved a little bit. Okay. And now it's not regarded as shameful anymore to say, hey, I'm in therapy. Okay. There's still a little bit of a cliche, uh, backhanded jab from some of us in the Black community, in the Black nation, when therapy is discussed. It's on the table or mentioned even. You go to therapy? Oh, mm, you know, everybody's, come on, we've all been there. Now, this is a reason why I didn't say much about Sandra Massey when it first happened, because like I said, I like to fall back and watch stuff like this unravel. Um, Another reason why I'm especially triggered is because I I just, you know, it's so disgusting at how this being just blatantly lied, yo. Like with a straight face, which also triggers me back to Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and Jacob Blake and Trayvon Martin. Okay, so it hits home because I have two Black adult sons, and I'm a Black mother. Okay, so as a survivor of abuse from the mentally ill, this is a very, very tender place for me. And I'm passionate about mental health. I'm passionate about abuse, domestic or societal. Okay. And I'm very passionate about racism, white supremacy, and being militant and unrelenting when it comes to you are going to respect me like you respect that white girl over there. Okay. So I saw some stuff here. And you know me, I'm always looking at these here channels, and I found me another channel for y'all. I want to share it with y'all. I want to show you something real quick because white people is getting sick and tired of white people's shit. Okay? And this it really opened my eyes, and I'm not easily impressed by palm colored folk. Okay, and their lackluster, matter-of-factly attitude towards excessive force, racially driven police brutality, and elimination of Black folk. Because those of us who are woke know that The innovator of the police was from the plantation that they put us on to work for free and abuse us and misuse us and gaslight us and groom us to be their tokens of fulfilling their sick, demented fetishes. Okay. And a lot of that stuff has not been unlearned, and it's been inherited and passed down to us through our children. And then a lot of it will touch grandchildren. And I am a walking testament to that. Just regular old girl from the Midwest, you know, regular schmegular. Okay. Wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And I was brought up in, by baby boomers. That, depression era type of parents, very strict, conservative, very limited when it comes to critical thought. They got married more so out of necessity and trauma bonding than they did for love, and to just keep up with and satisfy the demand of what a successful Black family is supposed to do. Successful, you're supposed to get married. Your value is in being married and having a family. If you're not married and and do things by this construct, then there's something wrong with you. You have to have a husband, in order to be considered a human Black woman. And of course, over time, people caught on to the trend of being very comfortable disrespecting Black women after we had the whole trickaroo with the civil rights movement and the feminist movement and all that. And they tricked the Black woman into believing that she somehow wasn't struggling bad enough, in comparison to white women. Okay. When we were on the front line getting the same beatings and abuse as our counterpart Black men. And now many of these red pill, blue pill poppers, manosphere, MTOW cults have adopted the same type of pathology as white supremacists. Okay? Specifically white male supremacists. But anyway, I found a group of folk, channel called Shots Fired Podcast. Okay. And they did a podcast July 30th, and they had a special guest named Scott Savage. And Scott Savage came along to discuss the Sandra Massey unaliving and discussing the background of Deputy who took her life in cold blood. Okay. Disturbed, touched. So we're going to take a quick peekaboo at this, and we might chop this in half or three because it is late in my neck of the woods. I took a late nap. I have been literally in spiritual warfare the past 2 days, and I'm not bullshitting you. So I might be a little vacant, okay? And I'm a little bit intentionally slowing myself down because I want to be able to touch all the points that and channelings that came through when I first studied this podcast. So we're going to dissect it up a little bit as Scott Savage go ahead and break down the background of the deputy who took our sister's life. Okay, so we're going to do this here like we always do. And you know, I have to. I'm not a hater. I gotta give my salute to these people. Um, I'm still a little skeptical myself, but I I got to go ahead and say, they get it. Okay, they get it. They get it, and you know they hit the nail on the head with this one. So it's all in how you read energy. And I felt something was wrong at the top of the queue when he knocked on her door before he even said anything. I felt an energy that was just eerie, and everything fell in line with what I expected was going to happen. After they entered her home while she was looking for her identification, I saw it. I saw it, and it unfolded, unfortunately, the way that it did. Yet another senseless soul lost due to the same mental illness, same type of demonic possessions that encompassed this officer, yet he was not, he had already checked out. He had already surrendered to his demons. Sonia was fighting hers. She wanted to get help. Sorry, y'all. My son, my lovely son came in. Um, yeah, the deputy fighting the same type of demons. Paranoia. Okay. We're going to break down paranoia too and what demon manifested paranoia. Okay. It's a spiritual warfare. I've been saying this for how many years have I been since 2009? I've been on YouTube off and on, and it's a pick a side. You can't have it both ways. Light and dark cannot encompass the same space at the same time. And all life starts in darkness. Okay. So if black and dark is so evil, why is it always the opposite hue of folk that wind up illustrating for us what demonic possession truly looks like. All right, now, just because you got a gun in the bed don't mean you should have one. And public servant means you're there to protect, preserve life, not take people's life. Okay? So no matter how educated, talented, rich, or cool you believe you are, how you treat people ultimately tells everything. Integrity is everything. Drop them eagle feathers if you agree in the comment section for me, please. Hit like. Also subscribe if you haven't already. I'd greatly appreciate that. We're almost up to 2,200 subscribers. I know I've been hobbling along here, y'all, and I'm not going to be going hard to paint real tough until I get my monetization back. So send up some smoke signals and prayers for me that after this 90 days, I could get my way with YouTube, get reinstated, reactivated. It's been one. Now, I found it, like I said, I found this gem of a podcast, and I wanted to share it. Okay. Shots Fired podcast. Uh, they they had a nice little chat here. Okay. And Scott Savage is a very interesting guy. He also specializes in law enforcement training. Okay. So we're gonna jump in here real quick. He's gonna get it in on the background of this demon who did a premeditated act of removing someone's life for absolutely no reason. Now, this part I wanted to start with is how Scott Savage is talking about his training, his officer training, law enforcement training, and raising the standard of the training, especially for people who have mental, physical, intellectual, or developmental special needs. This is another thing that I used to fight until my heart would bleed for people to have diversity training in place in their HR departments or wherever to give not just a certificate program. You attend, sign up, you get, oh, I attended this training for how to deal with intellectual disabilities, people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities or some type of mental illness or mental issue. And it's like an hour of training. Not that. I mean, intensive training, like a workshop where you have to have materials to study and complete to acknowledge that you comprehend said material. Okay. So let's go. And I think I'm going to just speed it up just a hair because I mean, it's a good pace if you want to just sit back and take the ride and listen. But for the sake of commentary, I'm going to speed it up here. Okay. Let's go. Y'all check this out. Scott Savage. I must say I'm impressed. Let's go.
Got your stuff everywhere in here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Scott Savage, retired police officer in 2023, had 24 years of service, worked a variety of assignments, and I own Savage Training Group, which is a law enforcement training organization. Got about 17 instructors right now. We're teaching classes all over the U.S., and our mission is to raise the bar of law enforcement training. I think it has a lot to do with some of the cases we're going to talk about, or this case today. We'll get into some of the training issues, but I really appreciate all your guys' support, and having you as instructors is a blessing for us. So thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys go to savagetraininggroup.com and see all the list of the classes that Savage Training Group offers. Phenomenal classes. I mean, we have nothing but great things to say about you guys and your business. So,
and if they don't see a class that's posted, they can also get in contact with you to host a class or to host a class.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Agencies can host classes. We've been to, I think, 20 or so states. But we're always looking to get to different states. If you want to have a really professionally researched, professionally executed training class at your agency, yeah, just go to savagetraininggroup.com. We'll head out to your agency and make it happen.
And I want to debunk something real quick, because sometimes when we go teach classes, we get asked if it costs money to host a class, and the answer is no. All you have to do is go on the website, request to host a class. It's free for the agency. Provide the room and the equipment.
You heard that? Law enforcement can host a class for free. Scott Savage will come to your agency and help train your staff for free. Huh? Let's go. I love it. I love it. Let's go.
Equipment, chairs for people to show up at, and you even give that agency free spots for their officers to attend.
That's exactly right.
It doesn't cost you a dime. You actually benefit from it. So I wanted to get that out there because some people ask.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. We're going to get into this Sandra Massey shooting. It's disturbing. And there's obviously a lot of other videos out there. And again, like we said in the beginning of this video, we don't want to just offer our opinion on the whole thing and just say, hey, blanket, this was a bad shooting. We want to actually break down the laws, the tactics that were used, and in kind of an in-depth discussion about who this deputy was that actually fired those shots, and everything kind of encompassing this entire disaster. This video obviously has gone viral. So let's break it down and talk about it. First, I want to talk about the deputy that was involved in the actual shooting. Scott, you did a bunch of research on this guy. Why don't you share with everybody his background and why it's important in the further discussion of what happened the night of the incident?
Yeah, the deputy involved in this looked like he had a pretty troubled history. And if you just look at sort of any major news source, they're talking about it. They filed immediately Freedom of Information Act requests on him, his personnel records, and they were able to get a ton of info. So they're saying he was discharged from the Army for serious misconduct, had a history of driving under influence. I think I read something, maybe he had 2 convictions, for DUI. He had been disciplined from a previous agency for his decision-making, right? Under high stress incidents, something about he's in a pursuit. Supervisor tells him to terminate the pursuit, and he doesn't, which is sort of what you got to do, right? You're a supervisor. I was a supervisor. And he continued on and was basically pursuing it with no lights and siren on, which is even more dangerous than just keeping your lights and sirens on and doing it. So he was, a couple personnel memos came out, and I think you can find them online, or certainly the synopsis of them, talking about where one of his supervisors was saying, this guy makes terrible decisions. How are you still employed with us, is what one supervisor remarked, which is pretty darn incredible. And they recommended
And that's the thing there. When you have someone in leadership that's asking a troubled, a problematic employee, how are you still employed with us? I get it. It was, kind of like a rhetorical, sarcastic type of thing, but serious, like, how are you still here? Really? This is why I say spiritual warfare, because Lucifer, the devil, is the prince of the air, right? And cunningly, certain evils are allowed to slide under the radar. Okay? How are you still here after these infractions, these massive infractions with people's lives and safety in the public? Let's go.
He'd take all kinds of decision-making classes. Now, if you also publicly available now is his employment records, which show that he worked at 5 previous agencies prior to the one he was at when the shooting occurred. It's not to say if you've worked at a variety of agencies, it's necessarily bad, right? We know people that have worked at a few agencies.
Let's go back. Let's examine this a little bit deeper, shall we? His employee history. He was in Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, deputy, May 1st, hired of 2023, separated July 17, 2024, a year and 3 months, terminated for cause. We got to let that sink in, Okay. Next one, Logan County Sheriff's Office. Same thing. Deputy, May 1st, 2022 to April 28th, 2023. Didn't even make it a year. Resigned. Not even a whole year. Auburn Police Department, police officer, July 20th, 2021 to May 1st, 2022. Didn't even make it a year. Resigned. Virden Police Department, police officer, May 20th, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, y'all. Resigned. Okay. Kincaid Police Department, February 4th, 2021 to May 18th, 2021. Other. What does other mean? Other. From February to May, that's only 3 months. What happened? Pawnee Police Department, August 11th, 2020 to July 26th, 2021. Other. Not even a year. You see this? And this is the training, in-service training, mental health awareness refresher, July 7th, 2024 to July 10th, 2024. Sandra Massey was taken away from us July 6th. Okay. I just wanted to, let's go.
That when the shooting occurred, it's not to say if you've worked at a variety of agencies, it's necessarily bad, right? We know people that have worked at a few agencies. I worked at one agency and then lateraled, reapplied, I guess you would say, to a new agency. Fine if you want to make a change. However, given the context of the rest of this guy's behavior, it just kind of paints a picture of maybe somebody who has got some issues going on. We don't know the man, don't know what the issues are, but spending less than a year at a bunch of different agencies and getting kind of moving around to all this stuff just maybe speaks to a level of commitment, or, gee, maybe I got in trouble here, I'm going to go move over there. It really looks bad for these agencies as far as their hiring practices. Every one of those agencies, which is mentioned by name, in the press now, locally is under a microscope. Why did we hire this guy? Or these other agencies are going, man, we dodged a bullet by firing this dude or getting him to resign. But the agency that did pick him up, where he was ultimately employed with when he was involved in the shooting, knew or should have known, about this guy's history. The last thing I would say just about him, just from some research and really just Googling this stuff is there's a photo that's kind of going around that shows him. And if you kind of look a little deeper and find the whole booking photo where it's not cropped, you'll see his arms and he's got a bunch of tats on there. And before anyone in your audience freaks out, like, what's wrong with tats? There's nothing wrong with tats. But given the context, again, of what's going on, that is going to come up in court, right? When he's involved in a shooting, you can see the forearms and see the tats that are on there. I'm looking at his booking photo right now. Maybe you can, splice that in or whatever. Dude's got skulls on his arm. There's nothing inherently wrong with putting skulls on your arm. Maybe you like a death metal band that's got that, or you got some good reason for doing that. But I can tell you, as cool as you think that is, when this goes to court and your picture is, this giant photograph of you in front of the court, it's not going to be that cool, and they're going to use it to show frame of mind, right?
That's why our elders back in the day used to tell us, be careful how you permanently defile your body. There's nothing wrong with tattoos. Tattoos is beautiful. It's a beautiful art. It's a beautiful gift. If you're into tattoos, I'm not against tattoos, but if you're going to do a tattoo, make sure it's something that's meaningful and it does not hold demonic energy. And if you don't know the symbolism behind tattoos and why people get tattoos and why there were tattoos versus branding, okay, then don't get one if it doesn't symbolize something that is energetically positive, okay, or meaningful. Hello.
Now, when you listen to this guy talk, I think he explains his frame of mind, and that's all you need to hear. But that's going to be used against him, as is all this other previous employment stuff. So that's kind of what I found looking at his background.
Yeah, I find it interesting. So being a supervisor, and I'm sure you've probably had the same experience. I think you have cops that are aggressive. They're great street cops. But they operate a lot in the gray area. And I know you've worked with some where, albeit they're out there maybe doing a good job, but they're pushing the envelope, operating in that gray area. And eventually, like case in point, his supervisor tells him to, cancel his pursuit. He's still chasing the person with no lights and sirens, right? Because he just doesn't have it in him to stand down from that, right? He's chasing the rabbit. He wants to get the bad guy. And so I think that's ego driven. So when you have cops like that, I think it's so imperative that supervisors have to hold cops like that accountable so it doesn't spiral into something like this. And it will eventually, may not be as drastic as this, but it will turn into something where that cop is going to do something to either get himself severely in trouble and or a partner, and to include the supervisor. So I think that's worth noting. If you're a supervisor, you work with people like this who they're skirting that gray area all the time. I think you really got to pay attention to that and not just brush it off as, that's just kind of the guy that he is. It's important. I mean, have you worked with people like that?
Yeah. And I want to mention the multiple agencies that he worked for. You even said it's not necessarily that you're working at that many agencies, you're switching around. There are plenty of people that relocate, different opportunities, but all those were in such a short amount of time. I think it was since 2000. This is the 6th agency since the year 2020. I'm sorry, 2020.
Yeah, I was going to say 2000. No way.
Yeah, within 4 years, it's 6 agencies.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the part that's kind of triggering.
Okay. Now, we all know that when we are pushed to having to call the police as Black people, that's one of the things that we should ask is, how long you been on the force? What is the passion about policing? It's good to check temperature if you can. Not all the time can you do this, but if it's not a very if it's not a real serious emotional situation, you need to have a conversation with the people who show up that you call them for help, especially if it's a mental health issue. And I have a lot of experience with that because I have a adult high functioning autistic son. And when I knew we were moving to this area, one of my proactive safety plan steps is to contact the local police, fire, library, hospital, ER, and just network with them and let them know I do have a family member, a loved one who is on the spectrum. They walk a lot, ride a bike, they drive this color car or what have you. We live in the area. And, if you see a new face, this is for Black mothers now, especially of Black sons. You do it for both daughter or son. However, this is no longer a Black little baby boy. This is your grown man. Okay, who is, in my situation, over 6 feet tall. He looks like a wide receiver on a football team. So they're not seeing my son, who is high functioning autistic, the sweetest gentle giant you ever want to meet. They see a 6'4" Black man. That's what they see. Okay. So it's good to talk to the police and talk to the chief, talk to all of the leadership if you can. Send them a mass blast email and a picture and say, my son is on the spectrum. And if you get any calls about any odd behavior from a strange person in the neighborhood, we just moved in. He's gonna be, in the area, in the community, and we want to give you a heads up. So if you get any calls about that, a person that might be seemingly acting strange, it would probably be my son. Okay. And back home in Chicago, he had an autism puzzle piece wristband. So God forbid, we get those Terry stopping cops, and they like to stop and frisk random Black men when they unfortunately touch him to frisk him. They'll see that wristband, and hopefully something will trigger and say, okay, this is somebody with a developmental disability. Let me put my ego in my pocket and remember my training. Just a suggestion for anybody out there, you know, people will call the police on you if you're autistic and you might have a quirky type of mannerisms or anything like that. They will do that. Okay. So let's go. This is going to get juicy now.
Red flags. And so, I guess the question becomes, well, why did this agency pick him up? And for anybody that's not a cop who's watching this, to become a police officer, even if you're a cop and you want to lateral to another agency, you still have to go through the exact same background process that anybody else would have to go to. So these agencies would have had to have put him through this background process where they would have known about all these misconducts and write-ups and DUIs and all those things before taking that problem on. The excuse of, well, they didn't know about it. Again, I'm only saying this to people who aren't familiar with that. They would have had to have known about his prior conduct.
Yeah, but part of the hiring process too, though, should point out is that they're known and they know about that information, but then that applicant, who is this deputy, is allowed to explain those situations. And those background investigators may believe that or think he's changed, he's done his punishment, and they think that portion of the problem is no longer a bit like there, and then they move on. Yeah. So it's not just like they knew about it, but they did it. There's an explanation process as well.
Yeah. And I think there's also a lack of standardization there, right? So one agency may have a very strict standards where they're like, we're not touching this guy because we don't know what other places he applied at. I bet if you really got into it, he's got applications in all over. And it's kind of like whoever said yes. Now this agency, I think I read, I don't know if it's the last agency or one of the agencies in there said, well,
and the thing about it is when they do these background checks on police officers and, potential new hires, potential whatever, it's just enabling their ego driven hatred and whatever illness they're suffering from, whether it be control issues, narcissism, whatever it is that's causing and driving this hatred to come out in them, using their immunity to commit crimes, to commit 187 specifically on Black people. You're enabling them. Okay, so let's go.
Well, yeah, we did know about some previous discipline, but had he explained it like he explained it to us at the time he was working for that agency, then
hire him anyway.
Okay, so kind of like to Mark's point, it's like we don't know how it was adjudicated. What did he say during the employment process? What specifically did he leave for? And agencies often to avoid wrongful termination lawsuit will say, "We're going to fire you, Kyle. Would you like to quit instead?" Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that does the agency a favor because they avoid any part of wrongful termination because you can't come back and sue us because we didn't fire you, remember? But what it does is it kind of jams up everybody else because although maybe I'm going to use you, but the applicant was a bad cop. He resigned. He didn't get fired. He doesn't have any adverse employment stuff. So then he can go out and be a free agent and get hired again. But the city, the first agency that wanted to fire him, was like, sweet, we don't have to deal with this guy anymore. And the officers always say yes when the agencies make them that deal because why wouldn't you say yes? You're not going to be like, no, fire me.
Yeah, because you're ultimately going to get fired at the end of the investigation.
So that's how that happens. I mean, people are wondering like, why? How can this be? Well, it's complicated, but you got to think about it from the actual employment law stuff. And this happens in private industry too. It's just that's what, this is one of the reasons why people are able to bounce around like that.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about the tattoo thing real quick. Yeah. You brought it up. I guess I would ask both of you what your thoughts are on agencies allowing cops to show visible tattoos, or should they limit what those tattoos are? But then that's like a whole other issue.
I don't think they should be limiting showing your tattoos.
It's either all in or no.
Yeah, I'm okay with showing tattoos. I'm okay with like beards, different things like that, because the public wants law enforcement to represent their community. And my community has tattoos. My community has beards. Like that's where I come from with that. So I'm okay with it. But furthering with that, it's if you cover them, your booking photos could still have that. And then depending on the jail, if you have tattoos, they're going to take pictures of your tattoos because they want to identify if you're a gang member or not. And they're not going to treat law enforcement any different. This person's being treated no different than any other person that's been arrested. So they're going to identify your tattoos anyways. And I imagine they have access to that. So covered or not, I imagine that stuff's going to be coming out.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a strong opinion either way as far as beards, tats, outer carriers, all the stuff that agencies are doing. Like to me, I think about, man, we got bigger fish to fry than worrying about that stuff. I personally just don't really have a strong feeling. My thing is just like when cops are doing stuff like getting tattoos, the t-shirts they wear, the stuff they're putting on Instagram, like this free country, you can do whatever you want. I just always wonder, do you realize like how this is going to play out when it goes to court? And just, from being a trainer, I just find myself researching a lot of court cases all the time because we look at, how did this end up, right? We see the body cam, but how did things play out in court? And time again, I'm seeing this stuff. There's a lot of interesting cases out there like Daniel Shaver, the guy that was killed in Mesa, Arizona, where the shooting officer had modified the ejection port on his AR that said, you're effed, right? That I guess seemed really cool when you did it, probably not as cool later. There's a kid named Dustin Pigeon who was shot out in Oklahoma City, and the sergeant that ended up shooting him, it was ruled a bad shooting, and he was criminally prosecuted. And that sergeant, to show his frame of mind, the prosecuting attorney introduced his t-shirt business that he had off, on his off time. And you can already imagine what his t-shirt said, right? I hunt the evil you pretend doesn't exist, big game hunter, and all this macho stuff. And it's like, dude, that may seem super cool and rad, and you think you're so tough when you're doing that stuff. You're giving the prosecution, ammunition. Now, these people I mentioned, I'm not trying to defend them and give them a way out, like hide that stuff so you don't get prosecuted, because everyone I mentioned needed to be prosecuted. But for the good cops, for the regular dudes among us, it's like, just don't create problems where it doesn't need to be there. Or if you're going to do it, just look me in the eye and go, hey, I know how it's going to play out in court when I get into a shooting. I'm purposely screwing myself. And I'll be like, okay, dude, right on.
Yeah, this is an interesting career. If you're in law enforcement, those are all things you have to take into consideration. This is a job where you do have the lawful authority to take a person's life, and that is not taken lightly. And all these things that you do outside of work, post on social media, everything that you guys just talked about, no other job has to worry about that. So you got to take it into account.
Yeah.
So
let's get into it.
Let's talk.
Well, yeah, every job that you have takes that into account. Corporate America, you have to be careful what you post online, and so forth. We all know this. And then especially Black folks, they watch us triple as close as they do any other culture of people, whether it be in law enforcement, a firefighter, a nurse, a surgeon, a radiology technician, all of those people in civil servants, a teacher, okay? As a daycare provider, I had to be careful what I posted on social media. I work for myself. We all should be holding ourselves and each other to that standard. You're a professional. Ain't that what we were talking about with these reality shows as well? Look at these reality people posting. You didn't think about that before you know what I'm saying? You posting this stuff on social media. You got folks getting arrested for making threats, posting it on social media, on live, threatening people. Okay. And then get mad when you don't get to choose the consequences to your stupid decisions. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You can't cry at the consequences when you chose the action to get you to those consequences. We've been singing this song for a long time, all across the board. Just like the consequence to hatred and racism when you follow through on something that is evil and destroys life. There are consequences, and you don't get to switch up the consequences. Okay, let's go. Let's keep going. We're going to keep about halfway. This is 40 minutes, so we're gonna do a little bit more.
Talk about the video. So the deputies are called by Sandra Massey to her house for some type of, she thinks there's an intruder or a prowler at her house. We'll play the video footage for you guys. You can see that the deputies are on scene, clearing around her yard, and it's obviously late at night. And I want to make note that this type of call is, if you're a graveyard cop, this is a absolute routine nightly call for service that you're going to get. You may get people who hear animal noises or something on the side of their house and they think somebody might be breaking in. The wind might cause an issue, doors slamming. People don't want to go outside and check their own properties if they believe somebody's out there. So, right. So that's why they call us. So this isn't like some out of the ordinary call for service for a graveyard cop to go to. They show up. It appears that they obviously realize that there's no intruder. No one tried to break into her house. The screens weren't taken off her windows, nothing like that. They end up inside her house. They try to identify her, and we're going to break down the laws and all the legal aspects for you guys here in a minute. But it starts to go a little sideways when she's digging around in her purse. She's trying to find her ID, and all of a sudden, I think she starts making some comments or statements where I'm pretty sure the deputies start to realize that maybe she's got some mental health issues, things going on. And one of the deputies sees that she's boiling a pot of water in the kitchen and makes the comment, let's shut the stove off. We don't want to start a fire while we're here. She gets up, goes to turn the stove off. She then grabs the pot of boiling water, makes the statement to the deputies that she's going to rebuke them. And that's when the one deputy goes from 0 to 100, pulls his gun out, makes some threatening statements to her that he's going to shoot her in the face. And as this whole commotion is going on, she ducks down. It looks like maybe to put the boiling pot of water down. We don't know. He kind of approaches her to maybe get eyes on her as she goes under the counter, and then shots are fired, and he ultimately shoots her. There's a lot obviously to break down in this, but let's start with why they're in the house. The legalityness of identifying her. Should they have recognized the mental health issues and immediately left? And I say we just take it from there, because everything after that point is where everything started to go bad.
Yeah. And so I looked up their law, their deadly force law in Illinois, and it's really interesting. It's a copy and paste of California's new use of force law that came out in 2020. And I've noticed that when I train across the country, cops from other states are always like, oh, you guys in California, you got your hands full out there with all those restrictive laws. And so I would just say for folks in the audience, like if you're a cop in another state other than California, like be advised, this stuff can be coming to your state. It happened in Illinois. It's happened in Illinois, happened in Washington, I think it was. So I'm reading from Illinois Combined Statutes, Section 7.5, which is their use of force law. And maybe as we're talking about stuff, I'm just going to pull out pieces of this law and be like, hey, it says it right here kind of thing. And starting right there, it literally says that agencies are encouraged to adopt policies designed to protect individuals with physical, mental health, developmental, or intellectual disabilities, or individuals who are significantly more likely to experience greater levels of physical force during interactions, as these disabilities may affect their ability of a person to understand or comply with commands from police officers. So just backing up, if you remember in the video when he's on the doorstep, she says something to the effect of like, oh, I'm kind of not doing okay, or I'm doing okay, or I'm getting the help I need. And he picks up on very clearly, like, are you sure you're okay? Do you need some help? You know, there's no way you can say he wasn't keyed up on the fact that this is probably somebody with a physical, mental health, developmental, intellectual, you know, one of those issues. The lawmakers have put it in the law in the state saying, when you see these things, you have to know, you knew or should have known, that's the term they'll use in court, you knew or should have known that this person could have difficulty complying or understanding commands. So fast forwarding, anything that happens after that, you're put on notice by, even if it wasn't in the law, just sort of common sense. Like, this isn't going to just be a normal conversation I'd have with someone who doesn't have some mental health struggles. And we'll get into, you know, gee, is it smart when you think someone's got boiling water over there to tell a mentally ill person, go grab that water? We'll get into that. But I think to your point, this he knew, right? And it's very obvious this person had some mental health struggles right from the get-go.
Okay, so
See, those of us who are, you know, experienced and who get it when it comes to the world of mental health issues and struggles and police interaction, public servant interaction, okay, whether it's cultural, diverse or same culture interactions, I have seen more police officers who don't consider that and read the room first before they start their interaction with their subjects. Okay. I have seen a lot of them overlook the fact that it might be a mental health issue. This might be something a little deeper than just a regular argument or altercation or whatever. This might be a little bit, have a little more layers to it. Okay. This is why it's important, Black people, to get serious about mental health issues. And even if you do not have any of your own or someone, a loved one who doesn't, you might not ever have to engage in this subject at all, but it's good to still be informed. Okay. That monolithic mindset, that beehive mentality, just staying ignorant because it's okay. Oh, you're complacent. Educate yourself on more than just what affects you personally. Black people. I'm talking to Black diaspora, the melanated people, the children of the sun, the tribe of Israel, whatever you want to answer, call yourself. We need to abolish weaponizing mental health issues and take it very seriously and plug in, period. Okay. Then education leads to awareness. Awareness leads to empathy and understanding. Okay. So it's less trauma that follows these interactions where the person is left in a worse state than they were before that interaction because the side of the police are just tone deaf and deliberately arrogant, okay, and demonically possessed. And the outcome is, dear Sandra Massey, okay, it broke my heart when her son made his statement. We're going to cover that a little bit later, but we're going to get through this. We at the 21-minute mark. We're going to do about another 5 more minutes and we're going to wrap it up because I don't want to be before you long, but I have a lot to say about this. Okay. So, and I've been holding it. So, you know, a Virgo, we like to talk when we got something to say. And, you know, God told me shush. Okay. And then I couldn't shush no more. I was cooking and doing dishes and the channel came through. The message was like, now it's time to talk about it. Present. Okay, so let's go. We're gonna do a little bit more and then we're gonna bounce.
Legally, can the officers identify her being on call? Yes, they can. I mean, they can ask her for her ID. They most certainly can do that. And she's being compliant with them. She's trying to give them her ID. And then she starts to make more and more comments where I think, things start to kind of go from, okay, something's not right here. To your point, the officer does ask her, go turn the stove off or whatever, because we don't want to start a fire in here. And you're right. Like before we even started recording, you were like, well, that's like telling somebody who's mentally ill, go grab those knives and go put them somewhere else, because we don't want those to be a factor in this call we're dealing with right now. That's just not a smart decision to do. He could have done it himself. But at what point do you think, I'll ask both of you, but at what point do you guys think that, okay, things aren't going well. They know there's no intruder. There's no crime. There's no crime that has occurred at this point. Should they have just left?
My opinion is, yeah. And I keep keying in on, why would somebody, why do you want them to turn the water off? The boiling water, why do you want them to turn it off? You're getting you're IDing them and then you're leaving. Do you plan on being there longer? That just, there's no real discussion on it. It's just intriguing. Why would you have someone turn the water off if you're just getting their ID and you're leaving?
Yeah, great point. When you're outside of her house, the only way we can go inside someone's house is with consent or an exigency, maybe a probation or parole clause. They ask for consent, they're allowed to go in. Absolutely. Can you then ask to the person for identification for my report, which is what he said. I need your information for my report. Yeah, you can ask her. She's under no legal obligation to provide that, but she seems to be getting it. Now she's digging around in her purse. She's saying, well, I'm going to show you some documents and all that kind of stuff. So right there, this is someone who's got some mental issues. How far are you going to take it to try to get that name? Not very far is probably the issue, right? But she's sort of compliant and she's saying that. I like what Mark just said though. It's like, why do we need the water off? What happens if boiling water continues to boil? It's not like a pot of, oil or something like that, or maybe they couldn't tell.
It evaporates.
Yeah, it evaporates. So, maybe they couldn't tell. They're going to say, well, gee, it could have been anything on the stove. Okay. But the wisdom of telling someone who or should have known is mentally ill to go grab hot water, and then perceive that them grabbing hot water as a threat makes no sense. There's a lot of legal theories about that's called officer created jeopardy, state created danger. In a nutshell, it says you can't create your own exigency. Right? If a vehicle's coming at me and a guy's trying to run me over, the law allows me to shoot at this person or do anything else to use deadly force against someone who's trying to kill me with a vehicle. But I can't go run out in the freeway here and stand in the middle of the freeway right now and then shoot the guy who's coming at me and then say, well, you guys said I could shoot people who were trying to drive me over. You say, wait a minute, Scott, that doesn't make any sense. You put yourself in that situation. And I sometimes think that, as cops, we do things that we're not playing chess, we're playing checkers. We got to.
That's what I like right there. Bingo. Ties into what I said about you don't get to choose the cut. This is what the same, Chauvin did the same thing. He sat in court and when he got that measly, 10, 12 years in prison, he still had the audacity to look shocked that he was actually going to prison. He really didn't believe he was going to go to prison for taking the life of a man, suffocating the life out of a man over a alleged counterfeit $20 bill, honey, over a piece of paper. So it is what it is, y'all. And tell me what you think about Scott Savage over here, willing to give free training to the law enforcement agencies who sign up for that. He'll give it to them for free, raising the bar of officer training. And I notice in certain calls in certain parts of the country now, they're starting to match up, just remedially trying to evolve. You see more African American or melanated officers coming out to melanated calls. Okay, you see palm colored people going to take care of the palm colored calls. Okay, they're trying to catch up. Okay, but it's a little bit hit and miss. But we got good old Scott Savage over here who is willing to help upgrade you a little bit more. If you want your law enforcement agency in your town, he'll come out to see you. Okay? Now, I just want to know what y'all think about that. Do you think they kind of, I don't know, it was like they was kind of eating crow a little bit to me, but However, I do fully clap for raising the bar of officer training, especially in the area, in the space of mental health struggles. Okay. So I don't know. I'm gonna follow this group and see what I like to see a pattern. I need to see consistency. Just like in my diaspora of melanated people, we need to get on code, you know? So we'll see if these cops is really on code and they trying to do a 180 with abuse of immunity in taking the lives of folk. Okay. So I'm about to bounce. We'll do part 2 probably tomorrow or a little bit later today because it is already tomorrow. For me, it's like 3:23 on Saturday. 3:23 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is what it is now for me. Um, yeah, but I might spin the block a little bit later. I'm gonna take another nap, pile over here snoring. Uh, try to rest my spirit and rest my soul. Do some meditation, some stretches, drinking water. I gotta up my water today. You guys, please, peace, power, protection, and prosperity every day, every day, every day. Take care of yourself and each other. Kiss the babies, lock the door, say your prayers, take some me time. Give yourself some grace. If you don't love on yourself, you won't have enough love to share with other people. Love always wins. Love heals everything. Nobody said it would be easy. One day at a time. Sometimes you got to go 1 hour at a time. Sometimes you got to take it 1 minute at a time. Okay? But as long as you get there in one piece, easy peasy, less drama. Silence is power. All right? I love you. And we'll see you on the flip. Okay? Hit that like button for me. And if you want to bless the channel, hit that Cash App, $ Queen 1971. And I love you. Thanks for being here. Rocking with your girl.